Hello, hello, hello. So glad that you are here with me today. And I'm so excited about my guests. We have two professional counselors that are going to be talking to us about mental health, emotional health, and also spiritual health. And let me introduce first to you Miss Chiquita Owens. She is a licensed practicing counselor, and we are looking so forward to having you come and share with us today. And we also have Martinez Sellers. He's also a psychologist and has practiced marriage and family counseling. And Kachita, my tongue. I'm
Chiquita.
sorry. Oh my God, I really botched that. I'm so sorry.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. I've been saying it over and over again before we came on the air, and here I am. Okay, but anyway, Chiquita is
Miss
going to
Owens.
share. Miss Owens is going to share. Is going to share with us. Thank you. That is so much easier. It's going to share with us her journey into becoming a counselor, some of the things that she's currently doing, and just a host of great information. And I'm going to start with you, and then we'll move on to Mr. Sellers. Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Miss Vera, for having me on tonight. And so I just want to share that I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas. I am currently practicing in New Jersey as well, temporarily. And so part of my journey as a licensed professional counselor, I would say, started years ago. I started out working in social services, and I just saw that there was a greater need, and I worked for the state of Texas, helping individuals with, food stamps and TANF and helping them get into public benefits. But I just saw that there was such a greater need. And so that is how I ended up being a part of getting into the whole area of becoming a counselor. But I started out in social work, and then I ended up working for the state and working as an investigator for Child Protective Services, which I left that job back in 2006, I believe, and worked for many other agencies. But I went out on my own and started my own private practice in 2009. And so from 2009 until now, I've pretty much been in private practice. And so I still work with children that are in foster care, and I do therapy with them as well as working with the families. But since we've been in COVID, I don't work a whole lot with my foster care kids because I was actually going into the home during that time. And so, of course, due to COVID, all of that was kind of stopped. So I've mostly just been doing virtual therapy, working with couples, teens and adults as well. And so that's pretty much where I am right now. A couple of things that I have going on now. I am currently working I'm being sponsored by the Boris Hanson Foundation, which is Taraji P. Henson's nonprofit organization that she created in memory of her dad, who suffered from mental illness. And so I am working as well with a great film director by the name of Naomi Wise. And she created a documentary called Connecting the Dots, to help youth be able to tell their story, teens and young adults. And so she's traveled all around the world to make that happen. And they created virtual diaries. And so they would do the diaries and they would send them to her. And she's taken them and she's combined it all and created an awesome film. And so what we're doing right now is trying to get that film into the schools. She's out of Canada, so she's working that area. And today we just got the great news that Lady Gaga is actually helping to help with the publicity aspect of this film. So I'm excited about that. And so that's kind of where I am right now. Anybody that knows me know I'm always doing something. So I always got my hands in something. So I'm just looking at the bigger picture, at getting these youth the help that they need, getting the conversation started with the parents. And so any organization or anybody, it doesn't matter where you are, if you are interested in hosting the screening of this film for your organization, definitely we can make that happen. And the awesome part is any of the youth that are in the film telling their stories, we could also bring them as well as part of your screening. So
that is awesome. Congratulations.
How exciting.
Congratulations. Oh my God. Working with Taraji P. Hanson and then with this documentary. Oh my God. That is so awesome. And there's a lot that you and Marty can share with us on giving some feedback, solutions, ideas, and information that may help our audience. And so, but before we get into all of those things, I'm going to introduce to you Marty Sellers, and he's going to share with us his journey and how it is that he's gotten to where he's at and what it is that he's doing to help build families and marriages and children.
Yes. Well, Miss Vera, thank you so much. And then to the esteemed Miss Owens too. Wow. How exciting is that with all the work we're doing? Listen, I think there's a common thread in those of us in this thing called mental health, and especially as a Black male therapist, I represent 1% of the field. So there's definitely not enough of us who look like us who are in this, who are men. And so what really catapulted me into this was because I grew up in a domestic violent household, and that's all I knew. And I knew that there were some challenges in my household, and then I knew there was also challenges in the church, because although my father, I knew he loved us, he just didn't know how to love us. And so we were always taught, well, just pray it away. And I'm like, well, for 16 years we've been praying and nothing's been happening and nobody's intervened. So that was kind of my own personal plight in that, from a personal experience. And then when I went to UC Berkeley, where I had the opportunity of getting my undergraduate degree, when I tried to do psychology, I knew no one looked like me in that. And I was just like, that's not what kind of happens in our communities. And when the professors kind of shoot you down, it's like, hey, I wrote the book. I'm like, touche, and let me get up out of here. So I kind of backdoored my way back into the mental health field, working with group homes and working with a program called Wraparound out here in California, where we would, instead of children being removed from the homes, we would try and provide in-home services. So that's how I kind of got backdoor into mental health services. But my passion is definitely helping young men and older men in this thing called mental health, because we already know that too many of our young boys have been improperly diagnosed, been over medicated, and treated unjustly in our educational systems. And then a lot of our men have also been incarcerated due to undiagnosed mental health challenges that they have. So I want to be that agency, that group that allows men to find a safe space in order to share our own challenges, our own come against our own thoughts of what a quote unquote man is supposed to be like, without feeling judged, without having the pressure, because we as men do not know how to share our emotions, feelings, and even sometimes our desires or frustrations. And too many times that our anger and frustration is misdiagnosed as being oppositional or conduct or defiant, instead of being depressed. So that's kind of where my heart is at. So, and that's where we do. And so I had the amazing opportunity about 4 years ago, starting my own private practice here. And so excited that probably about 60% of my staff is Spanish speaking, just because I live in Southern California. And then we have the other rest is definitely a mixture of Black folk, I say it that way. And so we are definitely the majority of this, and our cry is to change the outlook of mental health in communities of color. And my saying is always this: we have to speak up, we have to speak out in order that we might be able to live.
Amen.
Wow.
Amen. And you've got a conference that's coming up this Saturday, correct?
Yes, that's
You want
correct.
to you want to kind of talk about that?
Well, thank you. This conference, it is a joint conference. Is free to anyone, sponsored by Riverside and San Bernardino counties mental health services and the Black Chamber of Commerce, and a bunch of us just coming together. And it's called Beautiful Black Men Conference. And this is it's free, and we're just talking about this introductory of who you are. I'm doing a seminar myself, about a 45-minute workshop on the identity of a Black man, and challenging that whole notion of our own identity, toxic roles of masculinity that we have been perpetuated on us from society and even in our own minds with that, and how to love ourselves for who we are and all the majesty that we are.
Amen.
That's awesome.
So thank you. Thank you.
Amen. So speaking of the plight of our Black males, I'd like for you, and both of you can chime in on this, and kind of talk about how our society, how systemic racism and injustices have impacted on our mental, emotional, and also even our spiritual well-being.
Ms. Owens, why don't you start?
I will. I definitely can.
Yes.
And I am the year before, the year the pandemic, the year before the pandemic actually started, like my mind was in that same space, Mr. Sellers.
Right.
And what I did to take action, because I'm always taking action, is I went and I had a men's event. I had it around that Father's Day of June.
Yes.
And it was, we were still able to have physical contact, and I had a pretty good group of people to show up. And so it was a father and son brunch. And my whole thing was, I just want men to be able to, and I'm gonna say, get their crowns back.
Right.
And
love that.
And yes. And so I just felt like it would be really nice. And so for the women in their lives, the mothers, the daughters, for all of them to come out and bring their men to the event, because I feel like that our men have been dogged so much that they have taken on this role that, I mean, and not really knowing their self-worth of who they are, whose they are. And their role, I mean, the role that they have is so, I mean, powerful. And if they would just step into that role, and I believe that, a lot of our men don't even realize the role that they have. And so I just thought that it would be lovely to just have an event to show them their worth. And at the same time, I mean, it was really awesome. We had some young boys there, and we had a tie-tying contest where the older men had to get up there and bring a young man and tie their ties for them and teach them how to tie their ties. We had a tie-tying contest, and we did a lot of cool things. And I just thought that that it was needed, because we always having stuff for women. We have all these events for the women, and we have nothing for our men.
So true. So true.
So,
and I agree with you, and that's my platform. So I'm getting ready to begin an actual in-person for those in the LA area and this area called the Inland Empire, going in the desert area where I'm at, where I'm going to be creating a mentor program, because too many of our young men have now bought into the negative stigma from social media, from ourselves, from schools, from jobs. And I agree with you. We have to reclaim our identity and reclaim our power. But you can't reclaim something that you never knew that you lost.
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly. And our young men, they can't teach their children what they themselves don't know.
Right.
And you cannot give what you don't have. And so it's imperative that
Yes.
the work that both of you are doing to ensure empowerment
Mm-hmm.
into all of our lives, particularly our males, because there's just opposition from every direction. I want to kind of acknowledge a couple of our listening audience. Diane Sumter, hello,
Mm-hmm.
and she says, "Wow, our young boys need real God-fearing men to teach them how to be a beautiful Black man."
Mhm.
Right.
Oh, yes.
And
That's so
then
true.
absolutely, absolutely. Spirituality is just as much a part of our emotional and mental being as anything else. And so having that in a child's life, I think is just very important.
So
Now,
true.
Marlo says, yes, we are diagnoses wrong because
Mm-hmm.
our culture is different, because we face different expectations from another, cultural demands that we do not identify with. It is not our reality. But our reality was so much stripped from us
Mm-hmm. Miss Owens, would
throughout.
you go
Go
ahead?
ahead.
No, I'm saying, would you agree? Because a lot of times for men, we show depression differently than women.
Let's
Mhm.
talk about that.
First and foremost, the average woman probably will say about 20 to 22,000 words a day, where the average man will say about 10,000.
That is so true.
Isn't that true?
That's true.
Yes.
That's
So when
true.
we're looking at that, women have been taught from an early age, baby, how are you feeling? Oh, it's okay. Talk to me about it. Where men have been taught, you're all right. Get up, suck it up,
Mhm.
man
Don't
up,
cry.
don't cry.
Yeah.
So we've been repressed in that. I always call it the Coca-Cola syndrome. So you're told to shut up. You're told to suck it up. You're told all these things, and then the slightest crack,
And you blow up.
we blow up. But here's the thing: we implode first, and we explode second.
Yeah.
So internally, we're tearing ourselves up, and then we make a mess not only on you but ourselves as well.
And
And
talk
then,
about,
mhm,
can you talk about some of those internal tearing ups that you're talking about? What's some of the manifestations of
most
that
definitely,
internal? That's some, awareness precedes change. And a lot
yes.
of times we have health conditions
Mhm.
and emotional conditions, physical conditions, without realizing a lot of that stuff is because we have internalized
Yes.
so much, and it's making us sick. So if you could
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yes, and Ms. Owen definitely would chime in there too. But for,
Okay.
for most men, we definitely, a couple things happen. We see a lot of frustration, always on edge, anger, maybe isolating, maybe drinking, maybe smoking, all these other things, which then can turn into, now if we talk about it can turn into high blood pressure, it can turn into
Yes.
headaches. So we don't associate all of that. It can turn into overeating. Now we're eating all the wrong things. It can turn into not getting enough sleep. It'll be getting too much sleep, all of those things. And then we have to ask the right question, not what's wrong with you. That's judgmental. And instead of saying, "Hey, I'm noticing a change with you. What, how are you feeling? What's really going on? Because you're not yourself." Behaviors. Go ahead, Miss Owens. What would you suggest in that
I
too?
was just gonna say that asking that question right there, how are you feeling? Ain't gonna
Mhm.
work.
No.
You're right. You're right.
What-
You're right.
So I would just say rephrase it. I mean, the same thing. I'm with
Right.
you on that. The same thing.
Yeah,
But with our men, we got to rephrase that.
we do.
And we got to come from a different angle because most of them don't connect with their feelings. They just go from 0 to 100.
Yeah. A good friend of mine, he has who's a therapist also on the East Coast. Shout out to Trey. He's got a podcast called "You Good Fam," and that's kind of with male to men, and creating safe spaces
Yeah.
for men. I'm gonna bring food. If we got to do, we like to eat, baby, on the
Yeah.
basketball court. And I got a couple of therapists who are barbers, and we're actually talking about having a barber shop. talk where we could actually do some sort of event at the barbershop. You can get a cut, some good cooking, and good conversation.
And you know
Wow.
what? That would be awesome to do
Mhm.
that simultaneously
Yeah.
across the country. Something like that could happen.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
You know, I was very involved in the fatherhood initiative in
Mm.
Ohio, and it was very important for us to have fathers engaged in their children's
Yes.
lives, especially in their education. And
Mhm.
so we designated a day, and it was an attempt to do it on a national level, but different
Mhm.
schools and different areas did it at different times within a given time frame.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so there was a designated day where a father or a significant male would take a child to school and eat breakfast with them. And then the school would engage those dads about how they could be more involved in their children's education. And so,
Wow.
and then the fathers themselves would stay congregated and discuss issues themselves among themselves. And so it's not unrealistic to conceive of a day at the barbershop, you know, just the men, you know, male talk at the barbershop. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Can you and stream it?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
stream it, you know, have
Miss
it.
That's
Vera,
awesome.
it sounds like
Yes.
the Watchdog program that I think it was developed out of Chicago. Dogs standing for Dads of Great Students.
Okay.
Wow.
And what they and we did one out here when my son was in elementary school. What they did, they hooked us in on a Monday night football. Say, hey, I need all the dads come out Monday. We're gonna provide you. They gave us hot dogs and a soda. It worked. And then at halftime, they turned the TV off and said, I need just one day. Every dad in here, if every dad in here gave us one day out of the year that you can come up here and just stand on the playground, it'll make a difference. That calendar was filled in less than 10 minutes.
I'm telling
Of
you, and
dads
Wow.
just,
yes, dads want to be engaged.
they just
Yes,
I'm
don't
they
know
do.
how.
telling you, they want to be engaged.
Right.
And there's a lot of times, and you guys being involved with family counseling and what have you. But first, let me acknowledge another one of our audience.
Miss Felicia.
Hello, Felicia. And
Hello.
she says, I definitely agree. They can't teach something they don't know. We all need healing from the inside out, especially our men. Healing ourselves, then helping to heal others together. We can overcome our obstacles as a village,
Mhm.
leaving no one behind.
Yes.
And that's, you know, and the thing is, back in the day, we were raised by everybody. You know, I mean, it was nothing wrong. It was okay for your
Yes.
neighbor to chastise your child.
Mhm.
And it was okay for a sister in the church to tell your child, you can't do that.
Mhm.
And that child would listen.
Spit that gum out.
Yes. And anymore, parents don't want you talking to their kids and trying to discipline them. So what would you say? How would you encourage, you know, people to understand? And one of the other issues we had talked about, fathers wanting to be engaged in their children's lives, and there are so many females that can keep that from happening. And that's another area I feel that needs to be addressed at some point. This may not be the venue for it, but you know, it's a part of counseling. It's a part of understanding the impact that one may have on their child by failing to allow their father to be engaged in their lives. And you being counselors, I know you have some things you can say to address that issue.
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, like that's a case by case situation
Mhm.
because you never know what that woman has been through with
Yes.
that man.
Yes.
You never know what hurt or what pain has been brought into that relationship. Not to say that it makes it right, but now she's dealing with her own pain and healing process where she probably needs therapy to heal through whatever she's going through. And there's a possibility she could have been hurt by her dad.
Yes.
We
Oh,
don't know
God.
what the situation is of why, because a lot of mothers, that I'm just going to say that may have been hurt by their dad. We don't know if it was sexually. We don't know what it was, but whatever it was, most mothers are in protective mode of their children. And so if you know that
Absolutely.
your baby daddy or the father or whoever he is out there getting high, smoking weed, hanging out with his boys that may be hooked up with gangs, like whatever the situation is, that mother is going to do whatever she can to protect that child. And so that may come in a sense of now you don't get to spend time with your child because this is the acting out and this is what you're doing. And that's just on that level. And I'm speaking, more of our young adults, but even some of our older people are still out there living that life. And so to protect your kid, you're going to do what you have to do.
I agree.
So that's why I said that's a whole nother.
It is. It's a
I
whole
totally
nother.
agree.
That's a whole nother one.
And I'm a huge father advocate because I do believe there's also a lot of great dads out
fathers.
there
Yes, there is.
who
Yes.
desire, and I share with them all the time in here. Listen, child support is one thing, custody is another. That's why they're in two different courts, and that I'm gonna be transparent because we all black folk on here. We as black folk have to quit using our children as pawns.
Yes.
In this exchange. Well, tell your mama. No. You all are the adults.
Yes.
I'm all about family therapy. Like, listen, there was a fix my child. I said, now, only reason I will see a child is that we also have to agree that a minimum of once a month we're doing family therapy because it does us no good as clinicians to work on the child and they have to go home to the same stuff.
Exactly.
And the family. So I hold everybody accountable in the
You
family.
have to. You have to.
Because the whole family's sick at that point.
Exactly.
Yes, you have
Totally.
to.
And we have to learn to do a better job of blended families. Over 50-60% of our families now are blended. Listen, what you had issues with your old baby mama or your old baby daddy, that does not need to seep into this one. We can have, and we can have healthy family relationships with everyone involved as long as we have one goal. The problem is we haven't sat down and talked about what is our focus, what is our goal here. Listen, I don't love you no more, but we love these children.
That's
and so
right.
we're gonna make sure these children is taken care of.
That's
I'm
right.
a California boy gonna say
That's
children.
right. That's
I'm Ohio
right.
at heart, baby. I'm at heart.
Yes.
But we have to because it's really causing the detriment and tearing down and all the so now we have children who have anxiety because they're bounced back and forth between their moms and dads.
Yes.
You're talking about if they're having out smoking, we can't escape the PTSD and the trauma that comes along with some of these things. So we cannot ignore those things that we can fix, those things that are outside influences that are out of our control. That's one thing. But doggone it, if you brought these kids in this world, I'm a little hard on parents. You have a responsibility to get the help that you need to parent them in such a right way that we are breaking, and I'll say the spiritual strongholds and all these other things with that as well. We got to address the family issues. Me coming from a domestic violent household, I had to deal with my own, and I'll say the extreme passive aggressiveness that was destroying other relationships and even parts at times my career. That will come into place, and I have to fight it even as a therapist. I'll be like, okay, and I'll tell my clients now, listen, my passive aggressiveness almost kicked in, but I had to put it in the back.
Transparency.
Yes, I'm horribly transparent. I'm like, look, y'all almost made me go back to my passive aggressive mode, but I had to remember I'm the professional here. Now stop it.
Right, and you got to be real with people, and you have to.
And it helps.
And it does. I mean, being authentic and being real, we can't do the work if we're not that way. And because people will not want to hear what we have to say if we're coming across unreal. And so being able to express and fake, so being able to call it like you said, even for yourself, I think it's important. One of the things I want to ask you guys, can you kind of share with our audience the kinds of signs that they may observe in a child? I was on a Zoom earlier today, and I can't tell you how the conversation drifted towards the suicides that are happening among our young people, as well as young adults and older people as well. And particularly also it's increased in the Black community. And so if you can kind of share what kinds of signs, and I know that we have some resources that we've put up on the screen for you to also tap into, but what type of signs might a parent or even another adult, as it relates to another adult even, what kinds of signs might suggest that someone may need to talk to someone? Now, of course, you've got, the regular ones where people may say, I want to kill myself, or I'm, but then there's those underlying kind of things that may go undetected. So can you kind of talk about that?
Mm-hmm. I would say one of the biggest ones that I see in my practice with the youth is the cutting. Mm-hmm. That's one of the biggest ones that I see. And a lot of times they'll wear long sleeve clothes to try to cover it up. Some of them have gotten fancy and try to find other places they can cut. So I would just say if the child has a history of doing things like that, to make sure that you keep any sharp objects out of their way, out of their room, keep all of that stuff put up. Because that is like one of the main things most of these youth are doing right now. And that's their way of covering it up. I mean, if they're staying in their room with the door closed all the time, not participating in family events, don't want to go anywhere. I mean, sometimes that's normal teen behavior, maybe because now they're dating or whatever they're doing. But your kids. Mm-hmm. So when anything turns the opposite of what the norm is, I mean, paying attention and listening. And I think that's the biggest thing. And having a conversation, because most of the time, there's no conversation. You go to work, you come home, and they're in their room doing what they do, and you doing what you do. You on social media, Facebook, everywhere else, and not paying attention to these kids. Pay attention to them. Come home, sit down, have a meal together, have a conversation about what's going on with them. The only way they're going to open up if you open up the door.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Keep it a safe place where they feel comfortable talking and without judging every single thing that they say. Because what happens is, my teens tell me, they shut down. Mm-hmm. Now they no longer want to talk to mom. They no longer want to talk to dad. And so now you're just wondering, thinking you're getting all the information from me.
Right.
When the kids done shut down completely. And right. So I have to parent my parents to teach them, you have to leave a safe place for the kids. Don't judge every single thing that they do.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. And I would like to chime in even further with the cutting. And they're cutting in non-obvious places between their toes. Mm-hmm. I had a 12-year-old young boy who was cutting on his thighs and in between his legs. So men and these young boys, they wear long shorts. So you would never think to check their legs or anything like that. Or if it's I live in a desert. In the summertime, it's easy for us to get 110, 115 degrees. If it's that hot outside and they got on a long hoodie, you're like, I'm like, yeah. It's 1,000,000 degrees outside. You got to take that hoodie off. That means you're cutting. Now show me. I'm going to address it right head on. Yeah. And I've lost a patient to suicide, and where he took a bus, and I was no longer seeing him at the time, from Southern California, and took a bus all the way to San Francisco and jumped off at the Golden Gate Bridge. That's about a 12-hour bus ride with all the stops that are included in that. And it totally devastated me because, again, he was not being heard. Listen, parents, you don't have to agree with them. You don't have to, just give them a place to vent. Half the time after they vent and get it out, they're pretty cool, just like us. After we get it off of our chests, we may not be able to change the situation, but the fact that we were able to change our own thought process and get it out there, listen to them. You don't have to like everything they're doing. Be nosy. I'm always in my kids' business, and they grown now. But it really is like Miss Owens was saying, having that conversation, no, looking at changing of behavior patterns. There's usually a period in there where you can see drastic behavior changes that you can do. If they're suddenly giving away their most precious belongings, that's a telltale sign. You know,
Yeah.
I even have a good friend of mine whose son was saying goodbye to them and calling them, and he was panicking. And in the midst of him calling his ex-wife, he took a gun and shot himself in the head.
Oh,
So
Wow.
it's suicide is real. We have to
yeah,
Yeah.
stop saying does not happen in our communities. It does happen in our
Mhm.
communities. And
yes.
for young men, it's more. Okay, we're changing terminologies out here in California, so I haven't got all the terminologies together. It is more final. I'll say it that way. In the attempts, and we're not using the word successful anymore, but it has been completed out. As
Mhm.
opposed to sometimes women are definitely known to be more crying out for help in that, maybe pills or those type of things. But I totally agree. Take sharp objects away, lock stuff up, make sure medicine is not in the reach. Keep your
Yes.
medicine locked up somewhere. Because those are primary, especially with them doing these parties, I don't even know what those they're called anymore. I'm so out of touch. Lean and everything else. We have to make sure that our kids are not doing these things and they don't have access to it.
Now let me ask you, can you provide some suggestions on how a parent or even an adult to another adult can express concern, get some pull out information from the individual without that individual appearing feeling like they're being attacked or feeling like they're that something's wrong with them? So can you provide like some suggestions on how you might be able to tap in and pull out of an individual?
I would say one of the best ways that I would think is to, number one, like we were talking about earlier, is being transparent,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want to just make them feel like it's all them. We
Mm-hmm.
all have issues.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
We all need to be on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we
I
have to
called mine this
definitely,
morning.
yeah, we have to definitely realize that none of us are exempt
Right.
from
Exactly.
depression. None of us are exempt from having anxiety. It's just the tools that you use to help you cope through it
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
once you get to that place. And I think being in that place with someone and trying to get them to talk to you, I mean, you can just come out and be like, dang, this was a hard day today.
yeah.
I've been sitting here thinking about this, thinking about that. You just opening up to them.
Yes.
And then be like, oh, how was your day? I'm sorry, I'm putting all my stuff on you. How was your day?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I have
So just
found,
being real.
yes,
Yes.
and sharing a story that made, like you said, how was my, was a bad day, or just sharing. If I'm trying to get someone to see a point of view in them, I'm not gonna say or do it from a you. I usually start with a story about myself
Mhm.
in that situation, and then
Yeah.
wait for them to open up and share, because now they can see, well, if that happened to her, or she had that kind of experience, or those kinds of physical ailments or whatever, then it makes it a little easier, to the extent that I'm willing to share about myself. Like you
Mhm.
said, transparency is also to the extent that someone is willing to open up and share with me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think the comment that Diane Sumter has on here talking about family dinners once a week is where you allow your youth to voice their opinions. I think that is so.
Yeah.
I always recommend that. Find a safe space. Yeah, I go back to food for everything. Let's get some yogurt. Let's go get a pizza. Let's go. I have played games that I will mess up on purpose just so they can talk about me. At least it brings some things. I'll break
Mhm.
out and do a dance in the middle of Target or Walmart. Be like, oh, you're so embarrassing. Or I'll be like, how you play this stupid game? What? And knowing I hate it. And I don't, but it allows me. I have to now not neglect, but put my own feelings aside and
Mhm.
have some structured time with my child, so that I can hear what they're going through and pick up on little things. I listen to their phone conversations. Like, hey, I kind of overheard you say something. What's going on?
Yeah, yeah, and calling it like you see it, but not from an
Most definitely.
attacking, not
Most
from an
definitely.
attacking perspective. You
Mhm.
know, now Felicia, she says we have specific issues and needs that pertain to our culture and our race. How we are treated in the health care, educational, and justice system. The effects are played out in the media, our music, and the lack of economic growth. We own nothing or very little, and we must come together and create cash flow in our community, change our mindset to implement growth economics to build stronger Black communities. And of course, economics have a lot to do with the stresses and the depression and all the other things that we are confronted with. But like she said, healthcare, education, the justice system, all of these systemic issues. And so I guess, how would we, well, you guys, I'll just let you talk about it.
I just say, starting back from when I was just sharing with you guys how I even got started in mental health. Remember, I was telling you where I was working. I was working for the state doing public benefits. And so I would always get picked on because they would be trying to figure out, we got all these cases, all these people sitting out here in the lobby. Why are you still with this same person? It's been an hour. And they were saying about 5 or 6, and I'm still with the same person.
Right.
But like my conversation has went way beyond your income and benefits. I'm trying to figure out what's really going on. And so I done went into straight counseling mode. That's why I realized I got to get out of here.
Right.
Fire me if I don't. But like literally, I was really spending a lot of time with my clients, and because my heart went somewhere else, because I saw that there was a greater need. It wasn't just about giving them $100
Exactly.
stamps. Like, these people are really dealing with some major stuff. You know, they may have the issues with the father not being there. They may have, you know, the issue with, you know, I got 3 kids and now I'm pregnant with another one. I can't get a job. I don't have daycare. Well, I don't even have my license. So how can I go find a job? And I don't even have my license and my birth certificate. Well, I got traffic tickets. If I go try to get my license now, they might arrest. I mean, it's just like one
thing after the other.
That, and it's not just, you know, for this population, but even when we go into the whole criminal justice thing, when they get out, same barriers are set up, you know, where they can't even get ahead, maybe because they didn't have no ID when they went. Now they getting out, still don't have no ID. Now, how are they expected to find a job and move forward to get the things that they need to be able to move forward? And I think that, I know there are programs that have been created to try to break down some of those barriers. But like, it just goes on and on and on. And I think that holds a lot of people up. You know, they get frustrated and it holds them up from being able to move forward.
Totally agree. And that becomes a challenge. And how do we get past ourselves? How do we get past the traumas of where we're at? How do we get past the stereotypes within ourselves and creating that self-value and that self-worth? Because we can't get past what we can't see past. And many of us can't see past getting food stamps sometimes. Many of us can't see past catching the bus. Many of us can't see past getting all those tickets paid off so I can get my license. And for me, it's really about taking those small steps, one step at a time. You know, when they come into that, listen, did it take you, how many years did it take you to create these problems that you have? Well, 10, 15. So guess what? I'm not going to get done with this in 15 days.
That's right.
We have to get a plan together to help you through these things.
Yes.
And each milestone we celebrate.
Yes.
We celebrate each milestone.
Yes.
I like that.
And parents and in relationships, that can also be a part, even if they're not in your counseling sessions, but, you know, helping them understand, celebrate the wins, celebrate, you know, celebrate when your child has done all the things you've asked them to do, or you see a behavior change, celebrate that, you know. And I'm sure you probably encourage even couples, to have a date night. We talked about eating dinner together, or having a meal together in a family is so important. And, but date nights for couples is also very important. Having that time for yourself, even if it's only once or twice a month, but having that time just for the two of you, away from the kids, away from your problems, away from whatever you're going through, just for those few hours, embrace each other, focus on each other.
And I say, listen, because I'm single, so I say, listen, I have a date night with myself too. Listen,
I
need to get away. I will take myself. One, I need your best window too, and order me a good old porterhouse steak. I'll be just good and just love on myself. You did well this week. Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that.
But it's all about self-care.
It is, yes.
We have misinterpreted self-care, especially those of us in Christendom, Black Christendom, as being selfish. Listen, when you're flying, what do they tell you? In case of loss of cabin pressure, first put the mask
on yourself.
Yes.
Right, because you need oxygen in order to survive.
Yeah.
Too many of us are here trying to save other people. We need saving ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
And and there's, because being single as well, there's a difference between being alone and being lonely.
Right.
Yes.
And so a part of that is having to do with that self-care and loving yourself, being comfortable in your own skin, being able to be in your house with no music on, no TV on, and just with yourself, I mean, that's important too, especially.
But Ms. Vera, that's scary for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't like themselves. We're looking for, and my couple says, listen, y'all talking about 50-50. I said, I love the Teddy Pendergrass song, but he was wrong. Listen, you got to bring 100 and 100.
Yeah.
That's where the problem. We got too many 50-50, and you're putting 50 in two new containers, and you're still at 50. Listen, you need 100 of your container and 100% of your container, so we keep 100% in this new container.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, we think you're 50 and my 50, and we get a bigger container, and we still at 50, and we're flabbergasted by it. No, you got to give 100%. That means I'm 100% loving what I'm doing and 100% confident in what I'm bringing to the table, and you bring in 100%, and that's how we grow in that.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yes.
I agree. And one of the things that I have my couples doing is creating an emotional bank where they have to give.
Yes.
Give, and I just have them go back to what their bank looked like when they first hooked up, when they first started dating, how much worth they felt like they had off in that bank. And so I have them do homework assignments where that's what they have to do. They have to, because if you've done something this week and you done took away from that bank, it's just like you going to the bank with your money. If you go in and make withdrawals and you at a zero, then
you can't get nothing.
You can't get nothing. So I have them point into that emotional.
That's good.
Bank. I love the emotional bank.
Yes. And see, that's a tool that our audience could use even right now by you sharing that. Some of the things that you guys are sharing, that we are sharing here, are things that parents and people in relationships can take and use. And another thing, and this is a part of the counseling process as well. A lot of times people jump out of one relationship and jump right into another without taking the time, to be with themselves, to understand, how was I a part of this, because it's always like judges say, your side, their side, and what's in between. But anyway, so that also is another piece to this whole counseling and understanding self component to what we're talking about here.
But that's not perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say another thing that I share with my clients, especially for those that are complaining all the time about what they may not doing. I ask them if they complaining about flowers or roses or whatever. I just ask them, when the last time you bought yourself some roses? You mad at this man for not doing something for you that you won't even do for yourself.
Check it.
Okay,
so
that's the truth.
That's a whole nother version of self.
Yeah.
You do it for yourself. Why would you expect somebody else to do it?
Yes.
Love it. Love
See?
it.
So
Yeah, and going back to your love deposits and making sure we can do that with children. We can do that with each
yes.
other. What amazing. And I do this, I say, and here's a great way of making a love deposit. Miss Vera, how can I support you today in being successful? Miss Owens, how can I support you today in being successful? At the end of the day, was I able to meet that need? In other words, was I able to make that deposit in your
Mm-hmm.
life? If not, how can I do better tomorrow? That's simple.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
That
Absolutely.
that's it. Yes.
And
Yes.
even
So that
children, siblings can do that with each other,
Exactly.
even, I remember my, at the time, my one granddaughter, she was 6 and the other was 7. And then there's a set of twins, right? Now, the 6-year-old, she had already eaten her banana, right?
Hmm.
hmm
And so the 7-year-old was sharing her banana with the twins, okay? And so the 6-year-old goes and has a tantrum, right? Because she wants some of her 7-year-old banana, right? And so
hmm
the 7-year-old goes ahead and gives her the banana, gives her a portion. So then the 6-year-old is sitting next to me and she says, that was really nice. I said, what was? She said, for her to give me some of her banana after I had already eaten mine. That was really nice. And then she said, wow, I should give her a hug. I said, yes, you should. And so even helping kids understand and appreciate and value each other, now she did that organically off the, but to teach kids, for parents to help kids recognize the value in each of their siblings and for them to verbalize it to each other, I think can also help to minimize some of the frictions and contentions that we find within families.
Wow.
Right. You have to model the behavior that you want exhibited in your own children.
Yes.
And even in the relationships,
Absolutely.
like you said,
hmm
hey, if you want them to buy you flowers, then sometimes buy yourself. One of the things I tell
hmm
the couples, listen, it's all right to complain, but you got to have a solution.
Yeah.
What's
Absolutely.
the,
And
we have to stop complaining all that. Well, you're not doing this, or you're not doing. Well, what's one thing he is doing right?
yeah.
Can we start
Exactly.
there? Let's just talk about one thing
Exactly.
that you are doing right, and
And
Yes.
one of
go ahead.
yeah. One of the things that I also teach for my spiritual clients, I'm big on reaping and sowing. So
Yes.
whatever it is you need to be doing it.
Right,
Yes.
So
right.
by you going out and doing all of those things for your mate that you would like for them to do to you, the goal is that you're going to reap what you sow. And
Mhm.
not be
Yes.
so focused on what you don't have control over, but focus on what you do have control over in
Yes.
that moment.
Absolutely.
And so I shared that book, and you probably heard of it, The Love Dare, which is connected to the movie Fireproof.
Yes.
So I use that for my homework assignments all the time, and
Love
it's based
it.
upon spiritual principles. But he's also released one that is the Love Dare for parents that the
Mm.
parents can do with their kids. And so I have
Mm.
somebody that's doing that right now, and they just absolutely love it. They're doing it with the spouse and with the kid.
Wow.
It
That's
takes
great.
all of them. I mean, everybody's
Yes.
got to be involved in the process.
Hmm.
Everybody's got to be involved. And so it's just critical. I am working with kids and doing after school programs and trying to build confidence and self-esteem, but knowing that many of these kids were going home to parents
Yeah.
that was not that they weren't getting that same kind of edification,
Hmm.
which drove me to develop programs also for parents and their children because it's so
Hmm.
important. When I hear a young Black boy, 10 years old, in one of my sessions say, I can't stand and look at myself in the mirror.
Wow.
But there's so much hatred, especially among Black men, that goes
Yeah.
on. A lot of times we focus on Black women and their own image that they have of themselves. But 9 times out of 10, there's a lot of we Black men who are carrying negative stereotypes and images of
Yes.
ourselves.
Yes.
But because we have not been taught to express or that we keep it bottled inside.
Yes.
And so we're surprised when something happens. We shouldn't be surprised. We need to get it out of them and create, like you're saying, these safe spaces for them to say, I'm not feeling myself. I don't like.
Yes.
I always go, when you look in the
Yes.
mirror, what reflection do you see staring back at you? And do you like
Yes.
that reflection?
Wow.
Yes.
Hmm.
Felicia, she says you can resolve your big issues by chopping away at smaller issues. It's easier to digest when dealing with everyday life. Also, learn to self care. It's so important. Start loving on you so you can love others, and others will know how to love you. How
Hmm.
beautifully
Wow.
said.
That is
How
beautiful.
beautifully said. Even
Hmm.
scripture says, love thy neighbor as
Yes.
thyself. You can't
Yes.
Yes.
love other people if you don't love yourself, in
Hmm.
my opinion. You
You're
know,
Yeah.
right.
how can you love someone and you're not even loving on yourself? You
Hmm.
know, how, I mean, do you know what it feels like to love yourself? You
Well,
know? And
you're absolutely right.
so this has been awesome.
Well, thank you.
I want to
Thank you.
focus and promote the things that are going on. So, Marty, you got this event coming up on Saturday, and
Yes.
you want to talk about it one more time?
One more time, we'd love to have you. It's a free event happening for men, and it's called Express Yourself, Beautiful Black Man. That's happening this coming Saturday, June 5th at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you're on the East Coast, that's going to be 12 noon, and it will run approximately about 4 to 5 hours. And on that, we have some amazing speakers, and it's dealing with men's issues. And we also are talking about men, you got to either make them laugh or feed them or both. And so we have some great comedians dealing with our own mental health issues as well. So please, thank you, Ms. Vera, for putting the registration information down there. Love to have you. It's going to be free. Jump in, invite your nephews, your uncles, your brothers, your cousins, your grandfathers, everyone who's male. Tell
Yes.
them to come on out. And we want to have just a wonderful time and would love to have you.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome.
And Miss Owens, you have some
Yes.
things going on as well.
I do. I
You
do. I
got
do.
quite a bit going
I
on.
do. So
So
okay. I'll let you finish introducing.
I mean, you have this free counseling that's through the Taraji P. Henson's Foundation
Yes.
that was founded for her on behalf of her dad, in honor of her dad. And so I'd like for you to kind of talk about that and who can access this free counseling and how they can access it.
Okay. So it's the Boris Hanson Foundation. And again, like you just shared, that she created this organization in honor of her father, who was a veteran and also struggled with mental health issues. And so right now, coming into COVID, she started it out where anybody could come in and get free therapy. You just had to go sign up. I think we serviced like 1,500 people.
Mhm.
And then she came back. And I think she did it again, and we serviced more people. And then she came back again, and then she did 100 free black men, 100 black men. So we serviced 100 black men, and so the pouring in on that was crazy, because even after the campaign was over with, I was still getting referrals on my end,
Right.
and we're still reaching out. And so, like, I even started doing pro bonos because I was just so amazed, because I just felt like this is not real, like.
Mhm.
The need is
And
there.
yes,
Mhm.
I was mostly a lot of our young men.
Mhm.
Yes.
Like, they were
They're
reaching out.
traumatized.
Yes, they were reaching out. So I was more than honored to go ahead and accept them anyway. And so now, since the summer is coming in, and probably for the last few months, she's been doing some with group therapy with the teens and young adults. And so some of those are still going on. And that's all across the U.S. You just have to go on there on the website, on the BorisLHensonFoundation.org website, and type in what state you're in, and it'll pull up therapists that may be actually hosting those groups in the different age ranges in their topics. Some of them are doing it on grief. They have all different topics that they're doing it on. And then the most recent that she's doing, because she's just developed the curriculum to get into the classrooms where that's catered more to our children. And so she's trying to get that into the classroom. She just released that within the last couple of weeks to get that into the classrooms. That's something that she's working on. And so this is something that's going in conjunction with that, is to be able to provide the individual therapy as well. I believe she has an after school something that she's doing, but she wants to be able to get them individual therapy. So with that also, you can go and search the site, and there's therapists all across the US. But you have to make sure you choose a therapist that's in your state, and get signed up. So, but yeah, that's a little bit with that organization. And then, as I shared earlier, connecting the dots with the film, the documentary, which is bringing global awareness to mental health for our youth as well. We're just trying to get that film into as many schools, organizations. I just reached out today to Young Life, which is a nationwide organization, to try to get it into their organization. So I'm waiting to hear back from them as well. But
that is awesome. That is so awesome. We have ran out of time. Can you believe it? I do want to acknowledge Joyce Russell. And she says, hey, everyone, I'm really enjoying your talk show tonight. I've been there, so I know where you're going with this. I will be praying for you all. God bless you. Love you. And listen, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. And I just pray that there's been some things that was said and some tools that were given that's going to enable our listening audience to better understand their emotional and mental health, and have a checkup to understand, do I need counseling? Do I need to refer to counseling? What are the signs that I see in my children or in my spouse or even in my friend where I might want to suggest they talk to someone? This is a serious matter, and it's affecting us across the country. And so each of us must decide what it is we can do to make a difference in our lives and the lives of others, and to impact and make a change physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you for having
me.
And thank you, audience, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye.